Okay, I want to do an in-depth guide on gliding because I don't think enough people have really given it time when it really is one of the things that matters most. So, what gliding is you're trying to get from point A up here to point B down here where your drop spot is in as little time as possible. So, here's what most people look like when they're gliding, right? They jump, they correct down, they correct up, they correct down, they correct up, they correct down, they correct up again. It's just a bunch of movement, right? Here's why that's bad. Let's compare that line I just drew, which is the average player's glide path, where they have a lot of like wasted movement, to a precise straight line. Oh, let's not do it that way. To a precise straight line. You can already tell that this red line is substantially longer in distance than this blue line. And so why does that matter? Because this line is so much longer than this blue line, and you're creating extra distance, the time it takes to get from point A to point B with the red line is longer than the blue line. Let's see this actually in practice. We're going to watch a couple of clips from Fredoxy. Fredoxy is like a tier 2 Fortnite pro, and yet he has commanded the respect enough to own Mass Meadows on EU. So notice here, he jumps at the bus, basically no movement. He makes like 2 minor corrections here. 1 minor correction, and then another one near the end. 2 minor corrections the entire time he's gliding. And then we're going to look at another clip from Fredoxy. Same thing. We jump out. 0 like wiggle, 0 wasted movement. Just a super straight line. And now let's look at one final example. This one is of yours truly. This is basically a pixel perfect glide. Count the amount of times I adjust my mouse movement this entire time. So, the thing to take away from this is that you want to practice your specific drop and get used to the markers and the angle you need to jump at in order to minimize the amount of mouse movement you have. Because if you can minimize the amount your crosshair moves while you're gliding, if you can make that line as straight as possible while still hitting that mark, you will become a better dropper rather quickly. But I also want to address far gliding while I'm here. Now, I already addressed this like on Twitter, but I'm going to talk about it more here. So this all comes down to this one tweet by Jado where he's like, hey, is this like the secret meta for dropping? And what he does is he insta-pulls his glider and then just floats. And then at the very end, he goes down. And he ends up smoking everyone in this lobby. The same principle applies here. What Jado did was he basically went down, pulled glider, and at the very end, he went down, right? Whereas a more perfect glide would be something akin to this. You go down, because this line has a lot less extra movement here. Jado's idea behind why this was better was that it's better because at the very end here, the increased momentum, the velocity you get from going at this like downward angle is enough to make up for it. But it's just not how, not how Fortnite works. So this increased, like, momentum is not enough to make up for just the, overall faster time here. And my boy Prom KBM going up against Jado in, an off-spawn was able to prove this point. So Jado was trying to yap to me and basically say, hey,
first down zip.
It works, like, I've tested it, it works. And then Prom did an off-spawn against him, did like a normal glide path, spammed like a little when he needed to in order to hit the mark, which is normal glide, and he cooked him. Because the way to have the best glide is to have the shortest path. The speed going across and then down compared to just going like straight is so negligible that there isn't a massive enough difference to make up for that disparity. So the most important thing when gliding is always going to be to minimize the distance between point A and point B and that is done through having the straightest lines possible. That is what you need to focus on. That's what you need to work on if you're trying to improve your gliding. That is how you become better.